The last time we walked past this house behind me was a little over 2 months ago, and back then they were asking $8,000 a month for this rental home that is on the canal, so it's a waterfront property, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. But here's the thing, guys, they listed this place back on May 20th of 2022. Original asking price for rent was $10,000. Then they lowered it a month later to $8,000. This place has been sitting empty for 7 months now until they recently lowered it to $7,000, still empty, okay? So think about this for a minute. This property has been vacant for 7 months, no renters, and obviously the price is too high. No one's willing to pay $7,000 a month for this small little house. But let's say the real rental price is $5,000 a month, maybe, right? Maybe somebody would rent it for $5,000. Even if it's $5,000 a month, if they would have asked that from the very beginning and rented it for $5,000, since they did not do that, they have now lost over $35,000 in rental income on this property. Now, I don't know what type of real estate investment strategy that says this is a good idea, this is how you make money investing in real estate, but last time I checked, that's a pretty bad idea. But yet, you see this all the time here. I see these all the time on my walks, and I like to follow up on listings like this to see what's going on. And when you see properties like this that are sitting vacant for 7 months, it's like a big head scratcher, like what's going on? You know, some people say, well, that's just a way that that's just a tactic that people use in order to save money on their taxes. You know, they use it as a write-off. Okay, fair enough, maybe. But the thing is, I don't think so. In the case of this property here, it's probably not the case. Why? Because they're actually lowering the price. It seems like they're trying to get a tenant, right? They wouldn't be lowering the price if they actually were just using this as some sort of tax shelter. They would just leave the price the same, like we've seen with other homes, and it'll sit empty forever. But that's not what they're doing here. They're lowering the price very gradually, and I think they're probably in disbelief of what the property should actually be renting for, and that's why the place is still vacant. Like, this is just unbelievable, guys. I could not imagine being a landlord and having any type of property vacant for 7 months. I mean, would you ever do that? I mean, in the past, when I've had vacancies, you know, if it's been more than 30 days, I start worrying already. Like, in my experience, if any kind of rental that you have is vacant for more than a month, it's not priced properly. It needs to be repriced to rent. Because as a landlord, the last thing you want to have is vacancies. Now, since nothing in this world makes sense, as you can see when it comes to real estate, here's another thing that doesn't make sense. Foreclosures are up by 19%, right? But it's no big deal, guys. You don't have to worry about it. And I'm going to tell you why. According to Black Knight, in November, foreclosure starts have gone up 19%. So I would say that's a pretty significant amount. But at the same time, they say, well, this is not a big deal because these numbers are still far below the amount of foreclosures that we were seeing pre-pandemic. Okay, so on the surface that sounds like, yeah, maybe they're right. You know, maybe it's not such a big deal that we're seeing some of these foreclosures come online, especially since we had all these type of moratoriums in place and people didn't have to pay. There was the forbearance programs. All of this is over now, and so it's natural to see the foreclosures ticking up. All right, they're saying that foreclosures are still 30% below where they were at pre-pandemic. Also sounds very good, right? I shouldn't have to worry about that at all. But here's why one economist says you don't have to worry about these foreclosure numbers going up, guys. It's no big deal. His name is Odetta Cushy. Never heard of him, but he's the one saying this. He says that there's only 2 conditions and reasons of why we should be worrying about foreclosures going up. And he says 1 is unemployment going up, and 2 is home prices going down. So this is the part that makes me laugh, because this guy says, oh, this is not a concern. We don't have to worry about the amount of foreclosures going up because of those 2 things aren't present. What are you talking about? Guys, check out my video I did about a week or 2 ago. I can't even remember anymore, but it was recently about how fast this housing market is coming down. Nationwide, median home prices down 10% since June, okay? So check, we have home prices going down. That's one concern that the guy said that would make this a problem. The next one is unemployment going up. Now, so far, we haven't seen the unemployment numbers tick up. But let's not forget, you always have to remember the most important thing here is the Fed is gung-ho on making sure unemployment goes up into 2023. It's basically a guarantee, guys, because they've already vowed to continue with these interest rate hikes until they squash inflation. And one big part of the problem when it comes to squashing inflation is making sure that unemployment goes up, because this is how they're going to make sure that people are spending less money, is to make sure they don't have a job, okay? So we already have one side of the equation in motion for this. We already have falling home prices. Next up to come is going to be unemployment, all right? And so then this guy, Odetta Cushy, is probably gonna change his tune, just like we've seen all the housing experts do over the past several months, and say, whoa, wait a minute. Before I said these foreclosures weren't a big deal, well, I changed my mind. Now it is, because now we have unemployment going up. We have home prices falling. Time to hit the panic button. And this is why I think a lot of people come to my channel and watch my videos, because what I'm trying to do here for you guys is not only keep you informed, but also try to keep you ahead of the curve, because we've already been discussing this for the last several months. So the experts are way behind. And since you already know about this way before they do, or recognize that this is a problem before they do, then it makes it easier for you to get prepared to be able to handle what's coming. That's what the value I'm trying to bring to everybody who watches these videos, and that's the value that I hope that you're getting away from these. Oh, and there's one more safeguard that Mr. Cushy thinks that will be the savior from the foreclosures this time around. He says in 2023 that we're very unlikely to see a big wave or a tsunami of foreclosures coming like a lot of people think might happen. It's more going to be like little by little, they're going to see them coming up. But don't worry about that either, because even though we're going to see more foreclosures in 2023, we also have homeowners sitting on records amount of equity. So if they get in trouble, they can just sell, and you know, they don't have to worry about it. They'll be able to sell the property and not actually go into foreclosure. So that's what Mr. Cushy thinks is going to happen. But anybody who has half a brain can put two and two together and realize, if you're in an environment where home prices are already going down, like check right now, and a bunch of people that are in trouble financially with their home start listing it, trying to cash out the equity before they actually have nothing left, what do you think that's going to do? It's going to increase the inventory in massive numbers, guys. We already have all the home sellers that have been taking their properties off the market now at the end of the year saying that they're going to relist in the spring. So you're going to have those people. You're going to have these foreclosure people trying to save themselves from basically losing everything and try to cash out with little equity they have as they get these notices, okay? So maybe there won't be a tsunami of foreclosures, but what I think we will see in 2023 is going to be a tsunami of new home listings, and that's going to be excellent news for anybody who's been holding off waiting to buy a home, because even if home prices didn't go down, guys, which is basically a guarantee at this point that they will because they're already trending down, even if they didn't, this is still great news for home buyers, simply because you're going to have more choices, which gives you a chance to bargain with the seller, and it gives you more of an opportunity to find a home that you really love versus just buying the first, piece of garbage that you see, because there's this FOMO idea that I'm never going to be able to get a house if I don't get one today. But it's not just foreclosures that we need to pay attention to. Another big one right now is pending home sales are continuing to fall off a cliff right now. So the amount of homes that are going under contract are just falling by the month. And in November, they were down 4%, okay? And there was a poll done by a bunch of the experts or economists that said, we think pending home sales in November are going to be down by 0.8%. 0.8% was their prediction. It was down by 4%, guys. Now, if this isn't a good enough reason for everybody to stop listening to the experts right now, I don't know what is, because these guys were way off. Now you might say, 4% is not a big deal, especially when their prediction was 0.8%. They were only 3% off. I mean, only 3%, guys. This translates into tens of thousands of additional pending home sales not happening. These guys were extremely off, not just off by a little bit, but way off. And to just give you an idea of how bad this is and how much of a red flag that this should be for everybody watching, this is the lowest monthly pending home sale report that we have seen in the past 20 years. And that even surpasses the last housing crash, because the last housing crash happened like 14 years ago. So it even surpasses that. So if that's not a big red flag for you, if you're not going to wake up and look at this, you know, that's one thing I'm noticing. Some people just don't want to see the reality. They don't want to look at the data. They want to just, you know, take pictures at the Disney park and stuff like that and say, look at this, it's crowded here, there's no recession. But that is a totally unrealistic point of view, guys, because Disney World's packed 365 days a year because there's tourists that come there from all over the world, and that's never going to stop. So to sit there and say Disney World is a measurement of how well the economy's doing is ludicrous. But yet, that's what people do. They look at one thing and they say, oh, everything must be fine because, you know, look how packed Disney World is. But you know, instead, I like to look at smaller signals or hidden things that maybe a lot of people don't really look at or don't even know about. And that's another reason I make these videos, is to spread awareness of the things that are happening. And I'm willing to bet that a lot of people that watch my channel have some sort of retirement account in the stock market, whether it's a 401k or just a standard brokerage account, or maybe even a pension, which is similar to a 401k, but it's basically just run by your employer instead. I'm willing to bet a lot of people have something like this. And there is a new bill in the $1.7 trillion spending bill that's going to be signed into law soon. There is a part of this bill called Secure 2.0 that aims at making some adjustments in how retirement accounts can be handled. One of the new rules is that it lets people who have retirement accounts take out a $1,000 a year emergency withdrawal for a family or personal emergency, and this will start in 2024. And basically what this does is it waives the 10% penalty that you would normally have to pay by taking one of these emergency withdrawals. You don't have to worry about proving that it's an emergency. They're just going on the honor system, which to me was actually the funniest part, because in the day of so much corruption and greed and everything else like that going on, they're gonna trust you and just take your word for it. And basically how this is gonna work is you need to repay that amount within 3 years, or your contributions need to be high enough that it repays it on its own in order to keep continually taking out these emergency withdrawals year after year. But one of these retirement account gurus says that the common theme that you'll find with this, all of these amendments that keep getting made to these retirement accounts essentially are aimed at making it easier for people to make withdrawals out of their retirement accounts rather than keep it in there. On the one hand, I feel like it's your money, guys. You should be able to do whatever you want with it. You know, nobody should be able to tell you what to do with your own money. Okay, fair enough. But since these retirement accounts are regulated by the federal government, to me, this is just yet another way that they are kicking the financial can down the road. Because why do you think they're letting people do this now? Why do you think this is a part of this? It's because they know that people need money and people are desperate right now and are looking for ways to make ends meet. And you already see national savings rate dropping to record low levels, and you're also seeing credit card debt shooting through the roof right now. And now this, where you can take out the $1,000 as an emergency and not have to pay the 10% tax. And so this helps the federal government pretty much push this problem down the road to the next person who's in office, whoever's going to have to deal with this later on down the road once the economy is even worse than it is now. They're just really making it easier for people to find money in all different places that they shouldn't be finding it, because the whole point in saving for retirement is to have something there and you don't have to work for the rest of your life, but instead you're robbing your future to pay for today. And that's good for the government because it means one less problem we have to deal with right now. We'll worry about it later. But you know what the most alarming part about this is to me? Is the fact that the emergency limit is $1,000 before you don't have to pay a penalty. Say you have one of these 401k accounts or retirement accounts, whatever you have, you're in a position where you need to take that $1,000. I mean, quite honestly, guys, that's what an emergency fund is for. Why would you be taking away from your retirement into the future to pay for an emergency today? Because to me, the only reason to do that is you're dead broke. You don't have any sort of emergency fund. You're probably living paycheck to paycheck, and to be honest, it's probably a miracle if you have anything saved for retirement at all if you can't afford a $1,000 emergency. So that's the part that doesn't make any sense about this, and they're just making it easier for people to rob themselves and basically not have a retirement down the road. And it's not like we have to wait until 2024 to see what's going on with this, because it was reported by Vanguard that in October they saw a record amount of people making emergency withdrawals from their 401k plan. So if that's not sounding the alarm bell, I don't know what is, because why would they be seeing record amounts of people taking out money for an emergency right now? If we're not in a recession and the economy is going well and the housing market is going to the moon, why are people scared and taking money out and needing to desperately take emergency withdrawals from their retirement accounts? Makes no sense, huh? And it's not just people taking money out in the form of an emergency withdrawal. People are also taking out non-hardship distributions and loans against their 401k accounts in higher numbers as well. So as you can see, the common theme here is more and more people are resorting to taking money out of their retirement account to pay for today. When do you look at this and say, this is a problem? You know, maybe this is a big deal and people need to be careful right now. But don't worry, everything's fine. This is not a recession and the housing market's gonna go to the moon. Just remember that, because that's what the experts say. That's what the government's telling everybody. And you know, these guys are always right. So yeah, don't worry about it, guys. Now, there was a great article I read today that was based on some things that Charlie Munger said, who is Warren Buffett's right-hand man. In case you guys don't know, he's one of the richest people in the country. He's a billionaire. He's worth about $2.2 billion. And Charlie Munger's 98 years old, guys, which is amazing that this guy is still out there in the workforce. He's, you know, still dealing with financials and still going through day-to-day operations at this age, which is just incredible in itself. On top of that, has been able to make himself become a billionaire in his 98-year life. So that is amazing. But that's not the amazing part with this. The cool thing is what he said. He said people are less happy about the state of affairs than they were when things were way tougher. And then he goes, it's weird for somebody my age because I was in the middle of the Great Depression when the hardship was unbelievable. He said that life was pretty brutal, short and limited, and there was no printing press, no air conditioning, no modern medicine. And he believes that one of the reasons that people are so unhappy today and are complaining about their lives, even though we basically have it better than any generation in history, is because of envy. And it turns out when you're 98 years old, you have quite a bit of wisdom along with the money, because a recent study shows that 75% of people are envious of someone else in any given year. So that's almost everybody. 75% is a lot. Think back. Can you think of a time when maybe you envied somebody, when you wish you had something that somebody else had? I think we've all been there, right? I mean, I know I have. I mean, I'm not in general a jealous or envious person, but I think it's normal and it's human nature to feel that every once in a while, right? When somebody has something that you wish you had, or you think that, or you see what someone else is doing and it looks like they're just doing so much better than you and they're getting so much further ahead than you. Now, one obvious reason we can look at why people are so jealous and envious these days is social media, okay? Now, YouTube is a form of social media. You guys are here, you're watching this video right now, but I would say YouTube is pretty low on the list when it comes to making people jealous. You know, people find these pictures of people doing all these amazing things on Instagram and Facebook, places like that, where people are essentially gloating about their lives 24/7 and just showing the highly curated moments of when everything was beautiful and everything was perfect. And people see that and they think that's like that every day for that person, and they're living the perfect life and mine is miserable and now I feel like garbage. And that's a huge problem. But Charlie says that besides social media, he thinks a lot of the envy comes from the enormous wealth gap that's out there, because social media helps amplify that. People see, people driving around in these fancy brand new cars and on yachts and all these things, and it looks like everyone else is rich besides you. And what people don't realize is a lot of those people are broke, but that's not really the point here. The point is, because human standards of living have gone up so much in the past 100 years, the wealth gap now is much bigger than it ever used to be. And unfortunately, Charlie says that this is just going to be a byproduct of a free market system. You're going to have this wealth gap between the rich and the poor, and that's something that's never going to change in a capitalist society. Because he also says that I can't change the fact that a lot of people are very unhappy and feel very abused after everything has improved about 600%, because there's still somebody else who has more. And you know what, guys? I love learning things from people who are older than me, especially people who are this old, who have lived almost a century, because you have a century of knowledge to pull from here. And this is a fantastic life lesson in general, not just a financial one, because what it always boils down to is there's always going to be somebody who is richer, who's taller, who's smarter, who's stronger, who's faster, who's better looking than you, who has a nicer car than you, nicer house than you, whatever. And today's world just makes it easier than ever for all of this to be on display for people to be jealous of. And once you come to peace with the fact that there's always going to be someone that has more than you, whether it's financial success or possessions, hotter wife, you can come to terms with it and just appreciate what you have, then I think that's really a big piece of the puzzle that the world is missing today. And if you find this a problem for you, get off of social media, guys. Obviously, don't stop watching my videos, but stop looking at people's Instagram posts every day looking like, oh my God, look at this $100 breakfast I had at the Ritz-Carlton, or look, I'm in Tahiti today and I'm in Bora Bora tomorrow. I mean, come on, guys, this is not realistic. No one lives like this, all right? And the sooner you recognize that that's not reality and these people are basically full of it, that should make you feel much better. Because I think people just need to look at what's realistic for you and what's going to be achievable with the goals that you've set out to achieve for yourself. And once you accomplish those things, you should be happy, guys. And anything beyond that is just icing on the cake. Forget about what everyone else is doing. I know it's easier said than done, but give it a try. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the bell notification down below. YouTube will alert you every time I post a new video. And if you don't want to wait, check out my next one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.